Hi, and welcome to Rise, Heal, and Grow. I'm Leah M. Hill. This show is a podcast production of Apollo Sunrise Center, which is a health, wellness, and spiritual retreat center in Merrimack, Massachusetts. On this show, we shine the light on those who nurture wellness and inspire positive change. My guest today is Jennifer Safrey, whose career path has spanned everything from journalism to a yoga studio owner and now a romance novelist. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here.
Oh, thanks for
meeting you in person.
Yes,
finally.
I know. Finally, we've talked many times and communicated on email, but it's so nice to meet you in person. And I know it was a long drive for you to get here, but I appreciate it.
Well, you know what? It's nice to come up to this area. So
yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciated it. Yeah.
Oh, great. So you've had a very diverse path of career.
I do.
From
I'm not
one
really
thing
sure
to the
that
next.
my parents expected that when they sent me to college and just thought I was off to a journalism career and that would be it.
Yeah. So tell us about that. What happened?
Well, I mean, I grew up on Long Island and I really wanted to go to BU, Boston University. They have an excellent journalism program. And so I went there and, you know, I really... Except for a pretty long stint as a child when I wanted to be an astronaut, journalism
really?
seemed to be journalism seemed to be the thing for me. So everyone was happy. You know, I went there and I think I did well for myself. I worked at some community newspapers and I worked at the Boston Herald for 10 years. And then I said, you know what, I need a change. And and when I said to my parents, hey, I'm going to open a yoga studio, they were like, oh.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, here you are at the Boston Herald for what, 10 years or so?
Yeah, it was about a decade.
So this was your career, this was your life, is writing. And then what made you take that leap, that whole new direction?
Yeah, you know, I mean, and I have to say I loved working at the paper. I loved it, and I still talk about it. I feel like all my best career stories and all my funniest stories at parties always take place at the Herald.
I'm sure.
And I loved the people I worked with, honestly. And I was a copy editor, and I worked on the news desk, so I worked a night shift, or, you know, like the second shift.
Okay.
And... but you know, I mean, I was there for 10 years. Things were changing a little bit. There was a little restructuring. There was a little, you know, and at that point, I had already contracted some books for Harlequin, and I thought it was a good time to make an exit.
Okay.
So I did, but the really funny thing was that the day that I left the Herald, you know, my work day started at 5 p.m.
Okay.
So I was home all day, and you know, I was having the feels, you know, about leaving, and you know, I started working there when I was 24, and so I felt like I grew up there. You know, I felt like this was my family, and I was really sad. And so I was packing up my stuff to go to my last night there, and the mail came, and I was living in Boston at the time. The mail came, and I ran to the little vestibule in the foyer and grabbed the package, and I realized it was my first copies of my first Harlequin book. And they just happened to come on the same day, which was really strange.
Oh my gosh.
And this was back in the day. So back in the day, I didn't even know what the cover looked like until I had the actual book in my hands.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I gave them information about the story, and like I filled out a sheet for the art department. But you know, it isn't like today where they're like, here's a PDF. You know, what do you think?
Yeah.
You know, no.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I got a box of books, and I was like,
you had no
well,
idea.
I don't know what this looks like, and I sure hope my name is spelled correctly. And I got them, and I was so excited, and it was so nice to go in with some books and be like, hey, everyone, I'm leaving, but here's why.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is perfect timing.
So yeah, it was really good timing. So I don't even remember what the question was, but I wrote for a while for Harlequin. I ended up writing 4 books for them.
Wow.
And then...
It's impressive.
Thank you. I loved writing for them. And then, you know what, I proposed a couple of books, and my editor wasn't crazy about them. And so I ended up writing a really strange, like urban fantasy book, just for kicks, called Tooth and Nail. And it's basically about a woman boxer in Washington, D.C., who finds out that she's a tooth fairy.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. You know, I love it.
She's like a warrior. She's like a half fae, half human warrior. And so it was kind of bananas. But I wrote it anyway, and you know, it ended up getting published. But after that, I had a rough go of it because that publisher ended up going under.
Oh.
And they sold our books out to, Simon & Schuster really for distribution, which is great. But I felt like I was really kind of soured on the whole writing journey. So I said, well, you know what? I'm retired. That's it.
Okay.
And then
so here you are, a young woman, yes. And you were like, okay, I'm done with writing.
It was really the only thing like I felt like I was good at.
Okay.
And so I left, and I did various things. I edited for some different companies, and I did different things freelance, and I ended up buying a yoga studio that had only been open for a very short time. The owner had to move to Europe. And so I was doing yoga at the time, and I had just finished up yoga teacher training, and I was like, hey, you know what? I can run a studio.
I'm just going to buy this. I'm going to put myself into retirement from writing, which I had done
exactly.
these years.
I was like, that's over with. And this is the new me.
Buy a yoga studio. There you go.
And I didn't know the first thing about what I was doing. I never owned a business. I didn't come from a business-owning family.
Okay.
And
that's hard. That's challenging.
I didn't go to college for business. I went to college for journalism, which was why writing the yoga studio newsletter was literally my favorite part of the job.
Well, there you go, right? That's I think like a sign right there. It's like, okay, you did it for 10 years. You had this yoga studio, so that was a long time, and you're dedicated, and you're running this business. But then the passion, your passion, comes out as writing the newsletter, the monthly newsletter, and it's like,
and I think I didn't even connect them. Like I was just sad that I wasn't writing anymore. I was like, ooh, it's newsletter time, and I just like sit down and be like, I can do an interview with a student, and I can do it.
And you can have fun with it. Right?
Yeah. But then I met the man that I did end up marrying just a couple months ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And he's a writer. And, it's funny because I think in writers groups and people who are writers, we talk a lot about writer's block and the kind of writers we are. And we talk about our process and how do we sit down. Let me tell you something about Teddy. He says, I'm going to write today. I say, okay. And he sits down and he does it.
How does he do that?
I
cannot do that.
I don't know. I don't even understand that, actually.
I have tried.
Yeah.
I've done everything. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get myself ready because today's the day I'm going to write, or I'm going to write, 5 pages, whatever it is. I don't know how people can do that.
I really don't. He is very, very focused. And there have been days where both of us, and I'm like, you know what, I have writing to do today too. He says, fine. He sits down at the kitchen table. I sit on cross-legged on the sofa in the living room, which is where I write. And an hour later, he's still at it. And an hour later, I have like my earbuds in, and I'm like dancing with the cat.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
I totally hear you. That's exactly what I struggled with when I was writing my book years ago. I was like, why is it like, it seemed like everybody else could write like that. Like just say, okay, I'm going to, you hear about James Patterson or some of the famous authors that like, I sit down and write 8 hours a day. It's just a full-time job. And you just go 40 hours a week. And I'm like, why?
Well, I mean, to be fair,
I can't.
If I was James Patterson and probably making the money he makes, I could probably push myself to sit down for a few hours a day.
It's not really who you are, right? You got to kind of be. So your husband has this ability to focus, but you have the ability to honor yourself, to honor your own energy and what's important to you, and say, you know what, I'm going to sit down and write, because you've probably, well, like me, I'm just guessing that you probably have all this in your head already that's like bouncing around, and you're like, okay, I just need to sit and do it. But then once you get it out, it's like, now I'm going to dance with the cat.
Yes, I'm very happy. Like what? And you know what? To be honest, I think every writer is different, and I think I can only go for about a 90 minutes or about 1,000 to 1,500 words before I start to peter out mentally, and then really what I'm writing is not great, And I could keep going, but then I'd have to fix a lot the next day, or I can just be like, you know what? I think that's it for creativity today, and just do the same thing tomorrow.
That I think that's so important for so many people that are, watching or listening today that might be aspiring writers and feel like they're putting this pressure on themselves to produce X number of words a day, and to not honor that, to not honor your own energy, to say, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at getting it out and being done, and then moving on to, for me, it was like, okay, now I'm going to do laundry, or I'm going to do, do
well, other
dusting
things have
around
to
the
get
house
done.
or something. Yeah.
And you know what? We always hear people, and I'm not trying to downplay anybody's process, but I know that there are a lot of people who kind of evangelize that if you're a writer, you should write every day.
Yes, that's what people say.
But you know what? we can't sometimes. Like, I mean, I know people who have written entire books over weekends. You know, they're like, weekends are my only time to write, and I'm just going to write every weekend, and they write books that way. You know, I'm not going to say that that's not a good process.
Because they have a day job, right? So
exactly.
they have to honor
or they
the
have
day
kids,
job,
or they have, you know, they got a lot of things going on. And that's just where they find their time. And I don't really think we have to be like, well, I'm not a real writer if I don't write every day. Because then, you know what, Leah, with 10 books under my belt, then I'm not a real writer. So I don't know what to say about that.
I know, that's the thing. It's like you're the proof that it can happen.
I mean,
that it does happen.
You do your own thing, and it comes out.
Yeah. So let's talk about your latest work, which is a romance novel.
Actually, After Happily Ever is not really a romance. It's a fantasy. It has some romance stuff in it. But,
so let's say it's Happily Ever After, an epic novel of midlife rebellion.
It is.
I know a little bit about what this is about already, and I've already been laughing just hearing about what this is about, but I'd love for you to tell everybody what your book is about.
Yes. So After Happily Ever, an epic novel of midlife rebellion, this is about Cinderella, simply put, this is about Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty and what happens when they're all about to turn 50. And I wrote it the year I turned 50.
Okay.
So that should tell you what you need to know.
Yeah, so we'll talk about some parallels there.
But that is what it's about. And so I wrote it in 3 different points of view of these 3 different princesses. And in the story, I envisioned them as sisters-in-law because they all married a Prince Charming, so I assume that these were all brothers.
Yes, that makes sense.
So they are sisters-in-law in the kingdom of foreverness where everything is perfect and beautiful.
Right,
and I
fairies,
say that with
flowers.
sarcasm because it really
what I'm
isn't.
thinking.
But it appears so, and everybody kind of is under the impression, everyone who lives there is basically told how wonderful this is and how fortunate they are to be living in this land of wonderful opportunity. And yet it's not as pretty as it all seems. And, you know, at the beginning of this novel, the king dies. So I'm not giving anything away. That's in the first chapter. But one of these princesses now has to become queen because she's married to the eldest. And so everyone's circumstances sort of change a little bit. And these princesses who have been kind of languishing in this, you know, for a couple of them kind of boring and a couple of them a little nerve-wracking, just these positions of being, what's the word I want to use for it? Just figureheads, kind of. You know, now they're kind of able to be in a position where they can really kind of see the things that are going on in the kingdom, and that change needs to be affected. But the new king is not really interested in changing any policies or laws. And
this is much deeper than I expected.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
So these 3 women.
This is not just fluff story, like fun. This is like really
you know what? I
getting
tried
into...
to write it as lighthearted. Like I know there's a lot of fairy tale retellings that are dark. And I appreciate those. But even though this touches on some like tougher subjects, I did not intend this to be a dark story. I intended this to feel...
But it's deep.
Yes, I intended it to feel lighthearted, but also relevant to women. I feel like women, I mean, I'm Generation X, and I feel like women of our age bracket we don't have a fairy tale. So I wanted to give them like a nice happily ever after story to, you know, feel good about.
I love that because I'm your reader, right? So I'm over 50, and I know just from my own experience the dramatic change that my life took when I turned 50. My body took, you know, all kinds of changes. So is that what you brought into, like turning 50 and thinking about your life? I mean, we call it midlife, but it feels like it's older than midlife, you know? And so how did you bring in your personal feelings into this?
I had to. I mean, the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to go into the princesses' lives as, you know, I researched the Grimm stories technically to get in the case of Cinderella, the Charles Perrault fairy tale version, because Grimm Cinderella is sort of unrecognizable to most of us. The version that we're more familiar with the shoe and the mice and the whatever, that's Charles Perrault. Grimm has a lot of different elements in it, like a bird and the ghost of her mother, I think. There's just a lot of different stuff going on there.
Oh, really? I did not know this.
Yeah, and I thought that was a little much to sort of delve into, so I stayed with the more familiar one for readers. And so I thought about the idea that women of this age, right, women over 50, if your step-parents or your stepmother and your stepsisters put you into a life of servitude, you probably have PTSD right now.
Yeah, okay,
and,
I would say,
if you fell asleep for 100 years, that probably affected you as a teenager. That probably affected you as an adult.
Sure.
And in the case of Snow White, and her name in the story is Neve, right? In the case of Snow White.
Which is snow
Yes.
in French, yep.
Yes, she legitimately, I mean, she died. She died and she was dead for a year. Okay. And then came back to life. And I feel like your stepmother killing you is going to have an effect on you as an adult. So I was interested in how these women would grow up as people with that crazy childhood stuff. But then I had
PTSD.
So PTSD, family issues, and I also wanted to kind of weave in these things that I was feeling as a woman in midlife, and sort of distributing them among these women, kind of like the idea of not feeling relevant, kind of the idea of beauty fading.
Yes,
because
body changes.
Yes, and particularly for princesses, beauty is a thing.
Right,
their beauty fading. How are they leaving a legacy? How are they changing the environment around them? How are they thriving and helping others around them thrive in their community and, in their kingdom? And thriving themselves, rather than just barely hanging on in, survival mode.
Exactly. And I love that you focus on this age group in this story, because probably in your research too, and as we know, it's like these stories are typically about the young, virtuous, innocent woman, or it's like the woman in the story is the old crone, sometimes like the oracle figure or the help, the person who's like in the background, cleaning the house or something. But you chose a very different, age group to really focus on.
And I think
that's important.
I think part of it is that I feel like in a way it's a coming of age story, and I think we think about coming of age.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, and I think we think about coming of age as like childhood to adult, right? And there are a lot of wonderful books out there that do that. But I feel like, and maybe the other viewers do too, that as a woman who's now 54, I feel like when my only coming of age moments didn't come when I was 12. I had a coming of age moment when I was in my 20s. I had a couple in my 30s. I had a couple of significant ones in my 40s. I just got married at 54. So, or I think I was 53 when I got married. But it's, again, a coming of age for me. And, we had these moments. And so I liked this idea of like a later in life coming of middle age type idea where we're sort of transitioning from one period to another, and we're kind of told that this period is, really uncertain, and, there's a lot of health issues and whatever, and certainly that's true. But I think that there's ways that we can look at it as transformational and working our way. Like, let me tell you something. I absolutely plan to be a wise old crone. I do. But I have to go through significant stuff to get there, because the wisdom doesn't just appear, right? So, and I liked the idea of showing.
Earn it.
Yes. And I wanted to show these three women earning it.
Yeah.
Earning being princesses rather than having it just have happened to them out of for two of them birth and for one of them marriage.
Right. And I like too that these characters are not just dealing with all the physical changes of aging and the realization of turning 50 in the midlife, but also their relationships with the family members, especially like you said, the king dies and the husband's change or whatever, and the mother-in-law and all these things. It's like, I lost both of my parents before I was 50. I was in my mid-40s when I lost them both. So, but I didn't have the experience of like, I watched them grow old, but I didn't have the experience of like those, what people talk about, like when you're in your midlife and now you're taking care of your elders and now you're you're in this complete role reversal with your family of when you were the child, the young girl, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden everything changes.
Yeah. And in fact, it's interesting that you brought up your parents, and I'm in a fortunate situation because I do still have both my parents, but I also now have two step-parents, and I acquired those step-parents in my 40s and 50s.
Wow.
I wasn't a little girl. My parents, my mother got married, I don't even remember how long ago now, but I was in my 40s, and my father got married just a couple of years ago. And
interesting.
So, even that didn't stay static for me.
Right.
So at our age, we're losing parents, we're caring for aging parents, and, some of us are in a situation where the families we're gaining parents.
Right.
And
that's fascinating.
Yeah, and so everything didn't just we didn't wave goodbye to these three princesses when they were 17 or whatever they were in the fairy tale. And we were like, bye. And we just assume everything was fine. And I think it's almost an idea of what are these women going to look like at their, 30-year reunion? Different.
I love that. Yes.
Different.
I know. So, well, the one that I went to, my 30-year reunion, it was like very big difference between how the women presented themselves at their high school. I don't know if you went to yours. I thought the women looked like they've reinvented themselves. Yeah. And some of the men that I went to high school with, I'm like, oh my goodness, it looks like, my grandfather or something. It's like
it's interesting.
It's very different.
Yeah, see,
I don't know if you've experienced that.
Generation X, and you're my Generation X, right? We are a very interesting generation. Like, we tend to not look our age.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting phenomenon for sure. But in fact, I think one of the first chapters of the book, I have Snow White and I have the mirror talking to her, and she doesn't really want to talk to this mirror because he's always saying, "Do you want to know who the fairest one of them all is?" And she's like, "No, I'm over it."
Right. I would imagine.
And he says, "Well, I don't understand. All women want to know this." And she says to him, "Well, look, I'm almost 50. If I let you name all the women in this kingdom fairer than me, I wouldn't get out of the castle till midday."
Oh my gosh.
I can't do this right now.
This is a realization.
But it's also she realized that vanity, that kind of vanity, is what drove her stepmother to kill her. So she's not really interested in that kind of vanity anyway.
Right.
But on the other hand, Cinderella, who kind of senses that she's losing her legendary beauty, she's not happy about that.
Oh,
she's not.
Yeah,
like, she has her servants cover the grays, and like she works very hard. So there's things that she has to work on in the book to realize that her value extends further than that, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's talk about reinvention, because you've done it. You've reinvented through your career, through your writing, the romance to fantasy and all that. Like, what do you do for yourself to spark that and carry that through, that kind of reinvention?
It's funny because I think even from when I was young, I was like a little bit of a Renaissance girl in terms of like hobbies.
Okay.
And so I was a champion baton twirler when I was a teenager.
Oh, I wanted to be a baton twirler.
Yep, that was my
I think
thing.
I kept hitting myself in the head, but with it because
So
I wasn't very coordinated.
I had to cut all my nails short because I would, you would go to catch it and they would just split. And
I wanted to be in the front of that parade.
I was in the front of the parade.
You were it.
I was. I led my high school band. But I did, I went to nationals when I was 15.
Wow.
I went to Notre Dame University for that. And, so it was a big thing in my life. And I was also a flute player. And, it was very good. For a teenager, I was good. Mm-hmm. Then I moved to different things in college. And the hobbies that I've pursued, and I would mean in a serious way because I did them for years and whatever. Like I went from Taekwondo as a black belt. I went to horseback riding when I was in like my 20s because I didn't horseback ride when I was a kid. And I was like, well, I'll do it now.
Just try it.
I belly danced for a while. Like I did a lot of crazy things. Like if something kind of yoga, of course, like if something sparks my interest, I'm like, yeah, I'll try that. Like last year I took ukulele lessons,
Oh my goodness.
My point is, I think I'm always kind of like looking for a spark of like fun and some kind of skill to gain and people to meet who do a kind of thing. I like physical activities. I like musical activities. Mm-hmm. I'm not that great at art, but that doesn't stop me from doing artistic activities. And so I think I'm always sort of shifting creative mindsets a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people will ask writers like, where did your idea for this book come from or whatever. And, in terms of After Happily Ever, I don't know where any idea comes from. Like, I wish I can be like, yes, I was sitting in a cafe and look at, like, I don't have those stories and it's almost frustrating.
Okay.
But I feel like
that's good to know.
My brain is like a bubbling cauldron of like weird stuff. And whatever creative activity I'm usually engaged in will kind of bring up that weird thing. And then I'll text myself a note, like, God forbid, if something ever happens to me and someone grabs my phone and they see all my texts in themselves, they're going to see texts that say things like, what if a shapeshifter becomes president? Like, I can't. And then when I'm ready to write a new book, sometimes I'll just go back to all these ideas and I'm like, what was
There's
interesting?
your inspiration. Yeah. That's so fascinating. Oh my gosh. So I've got like so many thoughts in my head going on right now too. So,
but in reinventing myself, because I didn't really answer your question, I guess.
No, that's okay.
I think it kind of goes along with that. I kind of follow the thread of what am I really interested in. And, when I left journalism, I probably wasn't as excited to leave journalism as much as I was excited to kind of see what was next.
Right.
And then the yoga studio kind of presented itself, and I grabbed it without thinking a lot about it. And so it was a big learning curve for me, but, wonderful learning curve. And then when I sold that studio to one of my very dear friends and students, so I know it's in good hands, now I'm kind of immersing myself back in words, and I'm like, why did I let those 10 years go by? But
well, I can totally see too how all of these, these fun experiences, these things you've tried, the horseback riding, the ukulele, the black belt, all of that stuff can feed right into the writing that you do.
Yeah.
I mean, all these like experiences or little things that you text yourself or put on your phone.
I meet a lot of interesting people.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm pretty introverted. It's not like I'm out there like
I would not know that.
Chatting with people on trains.
Come on, really?
No, yeah. I
would not know
I'm nervous if I'm in a plane and someone sits next to me, who even seems kind of friendly. I'm like, earbud. Just because
You're kidding.
Yeah, I'm real nervous about
surprised.
talking to strangers. But if I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm teaching them something, like when I was doing yoga, or if I'm teaching writing, or I'm talking to them as an author, and I feel like I'm in a comfortable space, then I feel like I can talk to them, and people are cool and interesting and weird and different, and I'm just inspired by people around me all the time. Even if I don't talk to them, even if I'm just looking at somebody, I'm like, what is that person doing?
Now that makes sense. Now that you're the introvert, because you're observing and kind of like recording, because I'm an introvert as well. So even people don't think I am, because I have to force myself to be an extrovert.
I think we're kind of like the extroverted introverts. We have to do it for work.
Yes.
But if I have any say over what I do this evening, it's going to be like I'm going to be sitting and watching the Gilmore Girls later.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's just happening.
I totally hear you. Right. Yes. Going to a party is very, it's fun for a few minutes, and then I'm like drained.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, no, I'm going home now.
I have party fear. I always tell my sister about it, and my husband. I'm like, yeah, I have party fear. What do I face? Who's going? Who I know?
I never had a word for that.
Yeah,
I'm so glad.
It's party fear. Who's going? Who I know? What am I going to wear that I feel comfortable in and not itchy?
Yes.
And can I bring something that I can hold in my hand?
And the shoes. I spend a lot of time thinking about the shoes, because if I'm standing and my feet hurt, I'm going to be miserable, and then people are going to see me miserable, and that's not what I want to project at a party.
Such an overthinker.
I think about all those things too, definitely. But I think too, like you were saying, also the interest that you have, this varying, like excitement to try new things and different things, not only feeds your stories and your inspiration for the stories, but I think it's a lot of your youthful energy that you project.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, for someone in their mid-50s, which I know, like when we were growing up, a woman in her mid-50s was not like us. Right?
No, a woman in her mid-50s was on the Golden Girls.
That's right. They were projecting 50-year-old women, and they were, I don't know, they weren't like us.
Did you ever see the photo going around social media, and Google it if you haven't seen it, of the Golden Girls, but they gave them like modern day haircuts that they would wear now?
Oh no, I have not seen that.
And they all just look like lovely young women in their 50s.
Really?
It's
oh
really
my
incredible.
gosh, no, I have to find this, because I used to watch that show, and it never occurred to me watching the show that they were in their mid-50s. I was thinking, I don't know, 70s or something.
Yeah.
And then I thought the little old lady was like 90.
Yeah, same.
Or 80 or whatever she was.
Same.
And I didn't put that together until I was much older.
Dorothy is my spirit animal anyway.
Yeah.
Like when I get older, that's who I want to be.
Oh, I love Dorothy. Yes, I love her. And then when I turned 50, I was like, this does not feel like 50 to me. I couldn't put it together.
No.
At all. So
no, in fact, when we went on our honeymoon a couple of weeks ago, we went to Curacao, which is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not on the tourism board of Curacao, okay? But if you have not been there, please go. It's amazing. And I remember we were sitting on this beautiful patio. We were looking at a gorgeous, gorgeous view of mountains, and there were these beautiful yellow birds. I didn't even know what they were, and like iguanas were walking around me, and it was great. And there was a swing there, like a kid swing, and I was like, that is what I need right now. I need to get on that swing. Like,
you did?
I couldn't. Yeah,
I couldn't. My God.
I can't just sort of sit and enjoy things like a grown up would.
And your husband just goes along with this.
He's the same. Are you kidding?
Like totally like, okay, let's go on the swing. I'll push you.
Yes.
He did. Oh,
of course
all right.
He did.
Perfect.
Yeah. He's good about that kind of thing. And I mean, we're the same essentially. Yeah. And he's a couple of years younger than me. Not enough that I can call myself a cougar or anything, but he's a couple of years younger.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But yeah.
So let's talk about the future. What kind of, do you have some projects going on? You're working on some new things?
Yes, I have. Okay, so going back to my romance roots, I'm now writing a romance series, a 4-book romance series called the Moonrise Inn romance series, and it takes place at a fictional inn in a fictional town of Sea Salter, Rhode Island. And it's like a coastal inn, and it's run by a woman who's around our age, who is widowed, but she had to open the inn after her husband died because she's losing money. And they had planned to open it, but it died before it can open. So she's opened it, and she's this woman who used to be an advice columnist, so she's very wise, but she's running a business that she's never done before. And so each of the 4 books is a seasonal book, and it's a couple that comes to stay at the inn and fall in love for various reasons.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
yeah,
great.
And so I named each book after one of the monthly names of the full moon.
Oh, okay.
So On This Harvest Moon is a book that's now out. It came out September 19th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to look for that too.
Yes,
Can't wait.
And Christmas Under a Cold Moon comes out on the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh, wonderful.
So,
oh my
and then the other 2 will come out in April and May, so you won't have to wait too long for the series
And just tell everybody how to find you if they want to find your books.
Find me
yes.
on, you can find me in a couple places. You can find me on all the socials, Jennifer Safrey, author. You can find me at my website at Jennifer or Jen, either one will take you to the website, jensafrey.com. And also you can go to the publisher's website. My publisher is Sibylline Press. It's Sibylline. And Sibylline Press is a small press run by women, and they exclusively publish women authors over 50.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have to look this up. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that.
And I had shopped this book everywhere, by the way, and I found these guys at the last second, and I said, if these guys don't want a book about princesses in their 50s, I don't even know who to send this to anymore.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to check that out too.
Yeah.
So, and if anyone wants to meet you in person, you're going to be at Voices of the Valley.
I am.
Featuring
I can't wait.
local authors.
I'll have all my books for sale.
I know. I'm so excited. So you're going to be speaking, you're going to be selling your books there, and you're going to be on a panel as well as one of the featured speakers.
Yep.
So it's free and open to the public for anyone who wants to come November 1st and 2nd at Apollo Sunrise Center in Merrimack, Massachusetts. You can register right on the website. Again, it's free. You'll get to meet Jennifer as well as many other authors throughout the entire weekend of all different genres.
I'm so excited.
So whether you're an aspiring writer, an author, a reader, or community member, it doesn't matter. Everybody is welcome. So please join us. And thank you, Jennifer, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well.
I'm looking forward to meeting all those authors myself.
I know.
Actually, I know a few of them, but not everybody.
Yeah,
and by the way, if you come and you want a copy of After Happily Ever, you will get a tiara. So.
A tiara. I want it. Sign me up. I want my tiara.
You will.
Definitely. So, and thank you all of you for watching and being with us today. And stay with us because we have lots more episodes coming up soon.